It's 1:30. I'd like to call the meeting of the February 21st, 2022 Traffic and Transportation Commission meeting to order. We'll do roll call. Commissioner Varnell.
Here.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Here.
Commissioner Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Here.
Commissioner George.
Here.
Commissioner Cornett.
Here.
Thank you. Item 2, approval of the minutes of the January 21st, 2022 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission. Do I have a motion concerning this item? Motion to approve from Commissioner Russell. Do we have second by Commissioner Hale? Do we have any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of January 21st, 2022 by Commissioner Russell, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please?
I vote aye. I'm trying to get back to the.
There you go. The item has passed. All in favor. Okay, we go to item 3, reports from Traffic Management Division in Municipal Counselor's Office.
All right, this is a slightly different report format with vehicle for hire and wrecker services no longer subject to commission consideration and action. We have moved what used to be the staff reports from the division and municipal counselor's office up to this point in the agenda. So the only thing that we've got for you for this month is our standard report on parking and yield control signs that were administratively installed. And that's all I've got to add for today.
All right, thank you very much. Item 4, the consent docket. There are no items there. We go to item 5, 5A, Elaine Robinson, to add a stop control on North Youngs Boulevard at its southernmost intersection with Northwest 45th Street to establish all-way stop control. Ma'am, would you like to talk on this item? If I can have your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
I'm Elaine Robinson. I live at 2300 Northwest 45th Street. And I thank you for hearing this. I've read this engineering report, and I really appreciate the work that's been done. But what I want to highlight, I would say, is more of the human side that the neighbors see. And if I took you on a little tour, the sidewalks are on the west side of Youngs. If you go up 45th Street, you have young families, you have an apartment complex, pretty large one at 45th and Penn, and just south of the intersection is a gated enclave of about 12 houses. To walk a dog, to get kids to the school, to get kids to the park, you've got to cross at that intersection. I know that at times I've experienced trying to walk across, I'm on the west side, but trying to go over to see my neighbors, and sometimes I end up having to run across the street because it's just not an area of the street that drivers are looking for pedestrians. They're just not conscious of that. And so we really feel like there is a safety issue because they've really got to get across that street. But the second thing, and why we're trying to do this now, and you can see 100% of the neighbors there said yes, because you will know that the City Council has approved this big development at 50th Street. And that is sure to bring more traffic, both foot traffic and car traffic, through that section of the street, and we don't want to wait until somebody is actually injured at that intersection. So that's our primary reason for this. The other thing I want to say is I've been in conversation with the neighbor at 4521, my next door neighbor. He's an attorney. So I've been very clear. I sent him the engineering report and asked him, can you deal with a stop sign in the middle of your curved driveway. And his answer to me was, it might be a little inconvenient, but the safety issue here is more important than my inconvenience. So, you know, that's really all I've got, other than to say, we see a problem, and we're trying to do something about it. So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5A? Okay, staff, can we have your input, please?
All right, you've got our comments before you. I'm going to call a couple things to your attention. As odd as it may seem, Young's Boulevard is actually classified as a minor arterial in Plan OKC. 45th Street is neighborhood street. You've got our speed studies before you. The location, as it currently stands, does not meet vehicular warrants for the use of all-way stop control because it doesn't have a collision history or the traffic volumes for it. The applicant did provide a petition that was signed by everyone within 300 feet in favoring the request. So action on the item will be at the discretion of the commission.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5A?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Littlefield and seconded by Commissioner George. Do we have any talk on this item? Yes, sir.
I think I worked with James Cooper and the developer and Tim Johnson perhaps on this development, and I totally agree with this neighbor. I would be a bit surprised if we see more applications like this throughout this neighborhood in the future. Last month, I think we had a lot of discussion and comparison about the stop signs in Heritage Hills neighborhood and how they reported that they definitely have seen that those stop signs have driven the traffic more so onto Broadway than through the neighborhood. And I think that this application is, although not warranted, I think it's a good thing for the neighborhood.
Okay, anybody else have any talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner George. Can we have your votes, please? Item is approved. All in favor? Yes, ma'am. We go on now to item 5B, Cheryl Archer. Add stop control on South Cemetery Road at Southwest 44th Street to establish all-way stop control. And ma'am, can I have your name, address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Oh, Cheryl Archer. I live at 12,700 Southwest 47th Street in Mustang. I guess I'm in Mustang. They tell me we're a black hole out there. My husband and I moved to this area about a year and a half ago. And at that time, there's the stop sign, or the intersection rather, in question here. We noticed that there'd been several accidents in that year and a half time. We've witnessed the after-effects anyhow of an accident 3 times in a year and a half. And I don't have any reports or anything like that, but I do have some pictures that we took of what happened to the vehicles. We're not talking about minor accidents here. We're talking about some pretty major accidents. One of them was a rollover. One of them was a rollover accident. The other one was an accident where the front end of the car was smashed and the back end of the car, so they must have gotten hit twice, I'm guessing, anyhow, on that one. And then the third one I don't have a photo of, but my daughter-in-law had not witnessed, but saw the effects of the accident, after that happened. But to me, that seems pretty extreme in a year and a half period of time. The folks who live on the corner, in fact, when I decided to do this, Mary helped me with it, I only had one person I needed to go to at that time, because the other homes in that area were back a lot or two. And so anyhow, but these people that I went and visited with, they were saying that, they said it's crazy. They're sitting in there watching TV and they heard this crash. So they went out there to see, and there's been a wreck out there. So I called her yesterday, and I asked her I said, would you have kind of a ballpark idea of how many accidents that have been out there in the last year and a half? And she said at least a dozen. Now, I don't I don't know who to contact to find out how accurate that is, but she said it's not uncommon for them to be sitting there watching television and crash. They hear this crash and they get up and they go look and there's a wreck out there. So, but anyhow, so that's a reason for that. And the corner, too, if you go there, the corner is set so that there's really no place along the side. So like when you're making a turn, it's like you have to come to a complete stop because it's like a 90-degree turn. Okay, well, then you got these people driving 55, 65 miles an hour behind you, and it's just not safe. So, but anyhow, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this and ask. I appreciate it very much. So, anything else?
No, thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, we have somebody else signed up to speak. Sir, if I could have your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioners. James Welch, 301 Emerald Way, Mustang, Oklahoma. Thank you, Commissioners. Please see the petition I am passing out to the group for items 5B and 5C. I will start with reading the petition so everybody is aware of what is stated. Commissioners of the Traffic and Transportation Commission, this petition is to express opposition to the proposed changes on Cemetery Road, specifically items 5B, an always stop control at Southwest 44th Street and Cemetery Road, and VC, which is the next one being held, which is the speed limit reduction from 55 to 45 miles per hour from Reno Avenue to Southwest 59th Street on Cemetery Road on this agenda. This section of roadway is a commuter route and a major connector between two state highways. Both highways directly feed into the city of Oklahoma City. The existing free-flowing traffic brings people to work, shop, dine, and attend events in the Oklahoma City, bolstering the city's sales tax revenues. Constricting access along this corridor could impact negatively potential revenue and redirect revenues into Mustang and Yukon. The roadway is an important link to providing easy access into Oklahoma City. We implore the Traffic and Transportation Commission to keep the speed limit of 55 miles an hour on Cemetery Road, along with the side street stop control at Southwest 44th Street. And as you can see, this was just people I was able to get a hold of last night that use this road all the time and are not in favor of an always stop control because of the major impacts to their daily lives. I'd like to thank the traffic staff for a good report, and I wanted to highlight a few items from it. First off, there are basic requirements to have an always stop control. First off, there's manual and uniform traffic control devices, which is created by a whole bunch of people way smarter than me. And they say multi-way stop control is used where the volume of traffic on the intersection roads is approximate to equal. Cemetery Road carries approximately 12,000 in this area, while Southwest 44th Street carries approximately 1.6 thousand. Those are big numbers, mean nothing to me. To put it in perspective, it's a 9-to-1 ratio. That means that, so I can turn off of Southwest 44th, I'd be asking 9 of you guys to come to stop, minus the police department, so the whole horseshoe up there. That is a horrible ratio right there. The MUTCD also requires 5 or more reported crashes that are considered correctable by an always stop. That's not, like the rear end, which typically what she described as a front and a back damage would be a rear end collision and push somebody into another vehicle. So that would not have been considered a correctable crash. The report states there is the most complete year was 2020, no collisions reported. A 3-year history, only had 7. This falls far short. And then the letter specifically mentions 2, does not mention whether they would be correctable or not, but this still falls very short. It's important to note that always stop control does not prevent collisions. In fact, you tend to get rear end collisions at these locations. And so you can actually increase the number of rear end accidents. And finally, I wanted to point out that an always stop control is not consistent with the area. And this would violate drivers' expectations. So from Highway 152 up to I-40, up to US 66, there's only one always stop sign in this 8-mile corridor. That happens to be at Southwest 59th and Cemetery Road. And this one, just looked it up out of curiosity, it has about a 7-to-3 ratio, a little bit closer to equal, but still not really warranted. There are constantly having accidents out there at this always stop. I had one of my neighbors saying they see at least one a month out there, or results of it. The guardrail is damaged. In fact, it's typically damaged again before the city even gets out there to fix it. So the always stop control does not necessarily make a road any safer. And to put that in comparison, the 59th Street and the 44th will have about the same, almost has the exact same amount of traffic going through those intersections. Cemetery Road has a higher count at 44th Street, and 59th is a little bit higher on the cross traffic, but about equal numbers going into the intersection. In closing, traffic is a lot like water. If you plug it up one place, it will find another route. Do not be surprised when it gets unintended and, more importantly, goes undesired places. This will negatively impacting people's lives and homes. We implore the Commission to deny the always stop control request at Cemetery Road and Southwest 44th Street. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5B? Staff?
All right, you've got our comments before you. To answer questions relative to the collision history, we use a website which is populated with data from the Department of Public Safety. And every reporting jurisdiction turns in a standard uniform collision report. It's processed through DPS, and it'll appear in this database. We don't have, our current records show that in the past year, well, in 2020, there weren't any collisions recorded there. Now there was quick clearance legislation passed by the state several years back. So in the event of minor collisions, if there's no injuries or anything along that line, drivers can just exchange information, and those incidents aren't reported. So I don't know if just listening to the descriptions, it didn't sound like those collisions would meet criteria like that, but I just want you to be aware that that's current state of affairs. We did do speed studies. We did do collision history on this particular item. One thing I'll draw your attention to is that this prevailing 85th percentile speed does appear to be running, above the posted limit. And with respect to that, the intersection itself does not have sufficient volume, especially with respect to side streets, to warrant the use of always stop control based on criteria in the MUTCD. And the use of always stop control at rural section line road intersections in Oklahoma City is not all that uncommon, so it's not one of those things that would necessarily violate driver expectation. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and action on this item is going to be at the Commission's discretion.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I'd like to make a motion to disapprove.
Okay, motion to disapprove from Commissioner Russell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner George. Okay, sir?
I would like to, I went out and drove this at noon today, and found myself stopped behind a vehicle trying to make a left turn onto 44th Street. And found myself looking in my rearview mirror, making sure the truck behind me was slowing his speed, because I can see the anxiety that might create. It's the last 4 miles of roadway anywhere in that area that is still 55 miles an hour. And it's being called on to move a bunch more traffic than it has in the past. I think inevitably you're going to either see a widening or some sort of stop control going at all the intersections there. Right now, we have to think about moving the biggest amount of traffic, and it's just not warranted to stop the 90% to give the 10%. So that being said, with your next item on the agenda, I think maybe we can give you some relief there, or that will be anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, that's where we're at. That's
Okay. Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5B? Yes, sir.
Ms. Archer, could you come up for a second, please? I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Oh, to the podium, please. That's okay. I'm not the only one that hears it.
Okay.
Can you describe the neighborhoods? Can you describe to me if the houses face these streets? Can you describe if the neighborhoods are growing, if there's new developments going on in there? Because what I'm reading is that the volume traffic is nearly doubled.
Yeah, it really has. And us being new to the area, we noticed some things like when you turn there on the southeast corner of that intersection, there's like an 8-foot drop-off there. Because I almost dropped the rear wheel of the car down there one day, and it was like, we looked down in there, it's like, oh my gosh, there's no guardrail, no nothing. So if you were to get much of your car down in there, you'd be flipping it over. So, I know that's a totally different thing. But a lot of the people in that area have a few acres. We actually live off of 47th Street, and we've got about a little 5-acre deal there, and that's what a lot of the homes are out in that area. So, population-wise, I suppose we'd be a little less because of that, because we each have a little bit more ground. But there's, like I said, there's a house on the southwest corner, because that's the people I had to visit with on the petition, and they were extremely excited that I was doing this, because they've witnessed so many accidents there. And I don't understand on the part about that. It's like, what constitutes an accident? Because I've got pictures here that show some pretty bad wrecks, that happened there. So I guess I don't quite understand what the gentleman was saying about the not having any wrecks reported in that area. So because and it may require hospitalization or something, I don't know. But anyhow, did I answer that question, or?
Yeah, I think I'm getting the impression that the residential area is less dense than like a established, developed neighborhood where you have like
Right.
700 homes in
Yeah,
it.
it is. Like I said, most of us have some acreage there, but there's a lot that's being built in the area as well. And that was one of our concerns too, is seeing so many new homes being built, more cars. Yeah, the school is just, a couple miles to the east. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a little confused about these two items being separate.
Well, from a code perspective, they're under different sections. You got 3269 for stop control, and then you've got 32167 for speed control. So they could have been considered as two different parts in the same item, or they could have been considered separately. We just chose to list them separately.
It just seems to me that there's a contingency if the second item were to be approved, it might make sense to give this first item more consideration. That's just my point.
Well, if you're talking about something like that, we can always defer action on this item, move to the next, and then come back to this one. Would that be something that you would want to?
At this meeting?
Yeah. We could do
Currently?
that.
I would prefer that. I don't know how the balance of the commission feels about it, but I would prefer it.
Mr. Russell? It's your ward.
My word, I would have no problem waiting on that, because it made sense to me. Like I said, these are the last 4 miles that are left at this 55 with no stop control. You go to a mile to the east, and we've got Check Hole Road, that stop signs all the way up. They are asking this part of the area to move a lot of traffic. And I'm wondering, with the data we have, what that's going to look like if we stop control it all up there. How's that going to do with the flow of the traffic? And like I said, this wasn't warranted. I think a reducing the speed limit might create a little less anxiety for people that are making those turns and the people that do live in the area. So
Thank you.
I would be okay with, if you want to wait and we'll go to C and then come back to B. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay?
I need to remove my
We'll go to
motion.
a second.
How do you feel about that?
That's fine. I'm not sure it makes a bit of difference, but whatever.
You're okay?
Yeah.
All right? Staff, are we okay?
Yeah, that should be, there's no problems with.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to defer action on this item. Right now, we have a standing motion to disapprove, but I'm going to put a hold on it, and we're going to move on now to item 5C
Okay.
at the request of Mr. Russell. So let me read in 5C, and then we'll call you up in a second.
Okay.
Okay, so we're, for the staff down there, we're going to go ahead and hold on this item and move on to 5C. Okay, 5C, Cheryl Archer, to consider a change of the speed limit on South Cemetery Road between West Reno Avenue and Southwest 59th Street from 55 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour. And ma'am, you've already given me your information, so you're good to go. Do you have any things to talk about this item with the speed
Okay.
limit?
Of course, my main reason is for the safety of the people who live in the area. Like Richard was saying here a little bit ago, that when you're going down the street and making a left turn, your eyes are focused on that rear view mirror to see if the guy behind you is paying any attention. I don't know as far as number of accidents or anything that's happened. Part of the reason I put in the 45 mile an hour speed limit is I've personally seen accidents happen right there at the corner of Cemetery Road and 29th. And then what's the other intersection there? 19th Street? Is that one? 15th? Okay. I should have him up here doing this, but anyhow, on 15th Street as well, we've seen accidents there. Same thing. People going fast. That's about where it changes from 40. Actually, I think it's the Casey's store, isn't it? Where it changes from 45 to 55. But like I said, my main reason for being here is just to try to make it safer for the people who live in that area. And rear-end accidents are horrible. I've been in one before, and there's nothing you can do. You're helpless. So, and I just don't want that to happen to anybody. And to me, this is a quick and easy fix. And that'd be great if they'd widen the road, and all. That'd be wonderful. I'd love to have that done. But it's not going to happen for a while, and like I said, this is quick and easy, so, well, I say easy, that's because I've never done it before, so, I'm assuming. It takes more than a posthole digger. So, anything
All right,
else?
ma'am. No, thank you very much.
Okay,
Sir, we already have your information.
Thank you again for your time, commissioners. I would like to go ahead and say that if we'd like to see a roadway widening, by all means, contact your city council reps, contact your mayor. The more push there is, the city does listen to stuff like that, or at least that's been what I have seen personally when people have requested it. So there is hope there. It is a while, but there is hope. And then I fully, you can relate with her on looking in your rearview mirror. Mine happens to be at 59th Street at that always stop, because I've seen people blow through it. And so when I'm coming up to that stop, I'm still checking my rearview mirror to make sure somebody doesn't come in and plow into the back of me. So whether there's a stop sign or not, you're still worried about somebody plowing into the back of you. Again, I'd like to go through the report. Staff did a great job. One of the most important things to remember about Cemetery Road is that this used to be a state highway and was designed and built to handle these speeds. A side note, there's a lot of confusion about this not being a state highway anymore, because a lot of local government web pages still show this as Highway 92 on their interfaces. So everybody, I had several people I talked to like, what, it's not a highway? I was like, no, it's not. And then another thing is there is a state highway 2 miles to the east, and this is also still posted at 55 miles an hour. So it's not the only 55 mile an hour game out there. And then for traffic volume, Cemetery Road sees about, Checkaw Road sees about 1/10 of the traffic that Cemetery Road does. So it would make more sense for always stop on Checkaw Road than per se Cemetery, because it's not carrying the volume north-south. Anyways, so an important factor also is that the sight distance currently exceeds Oklahoma City's criteria for 55 miles an hour. The roadway has a traffic volume down by Mustang around 10,000. You get up to by that Casey's, it's about 15,000. And if you go just to the north of Casey's between Reno and 10th Street, estimated value is like 31,000 based on data and current growth out there. Some other important things, the average speed is 58 miles an hour. They're really close to the posted speed limit. This is winning. This is when the police department really doesn't need to come out and do a whole lot of enforcement. The 85th percentile speed is 62 miles an hour, which a little bit high, but you know, it's at least close by MUTC requirements. You know, maybe the road should be posted at 60. In fact, it says that in section 2B.13, subsection 12, when a speed limit within a speed zone is posted, it should be within 5 miles per hour of the 85th percentile speed of free-flowing traffic. We are not requesting a change up to 60. We're just requesting leave it alone. Leave it at 55. In fact, the NCHRP report 966, which Stuart ran the numbers on, gives a recommended speed limit of 55, another sign of winning. And then, well, how many people are actually willing to drive 45? Currently, it's 4%. So if we take everybody in this room, maybe one out of everybody in this room would be going the speed limit. That is a lot of people who will be, that could potentially be breaking the law, you know. And the traffic staff has done a great job of doing reports on posting speed limits before and going against the 85th percentile speed. And one of the themes that I've noticed from watching these commissions before is that what is posted on that black and white sign doesn't tend to change majority of the driver's behavior. So your speeds that I would still expect to see out there would be 55 with a few people going slower, which at that point, you know, you start worrying about people trying to pass, overtake. There's still allowed passing on this roadway. So to me, it would create a greater danger to the users to reduce the speed limit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Staff?
All right, you got our comments before you. As noted in the discussion that we did run a speed analysis on this, and the current thinking on as far as speed limits on a facility like this would suggest that a speed limit around 55 miles an hour would be appropriate for it. The one thing that that you also need to look at, it's like on page 4 of your recommendations, is that we did look at about 10 years worth of traffic growth on this particular section of Cemetery Road, and from a percentage standpoint, which doesn't necessarily tell the best picture, we're looking at growth, growth along Cemetery Road with volumes increasing depending on location, anywhere from about 38% up to about 69%. So the area is continuing to urbanize. And I mean, it is in Canadian County, which is probably the fastest growing county in the state at this point in time. The surrounding speed limits on some of the paralleling roads, they are in the neighborhood of like 45 miles an hour. Now, this road is somewhat unique in as much as it is a former state highway. It was State Highway 92 at one point in time. And you can tell that there's a difference in the way this roadway was built compared to the others because this one's actually got a shoulder on it. Sight distance along the roadway does meet for 55 mile an hour limit. I don't know if it would meet at, if with prevailing speeds up or beyond 60 miles an hour, but it does meet based on the currently posted limit. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this particular application, and action will be at the commission's discretion.
Okay, do we have a motion on 5C?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Russell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Littlefield. Okay, do we have any talk on this item?
Once again, just as I had mentioned in the other issue, I think this is one of the last sections anywhere near that's still at the 55 mile an hour speed limit. I think that draws a lot of attention to that road. I think we can give you some assurance and peace of mind by slowing it down a little bit. Obviously, the stop isn't warranted at this time. We don't see the traffic trying to cross that warrants putting in stop signs and stuff like that. I think by reducing the speed, it might maybe help other people find another way to get home to Mustang and not use this as the highway, which it is not anymore. That's kind of just in my thoughts in my head. And I think this might be a little relief we can give you at the time. Like I said, I think growth in the area and I went over it today, the new subdivisions in the area are growing up, and we'll probably see a lot of other changes on this roadway in the future. I think the 45 makes that speed in that area a lot more similar to the ones on the other roads. So anyway, that's all I got to say on it.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Man, I wish Red was here. Because what he taught me in my 2.5 years on this commission is why would we want to turn law-abiding citizens into lawbreakers? And that's what you're asking for us to do. And the data proves that you're just going to get the police out there writing a lot of tickets and turn it into a bunch of lawbreakers. And that's why you cannot get my support with that. A lot of you don't know, I actually emailed Stuart and Russell because I didn't think I was going to be here today about this particular item. And for that reason is I don't want to turn law-abiding citizens into lawbreakers.
All right, thank you. Anybody else want to? Yes, sir.
Help me out. I fail to understand what the problem is and how this is going to fix it. I mean, we've got a speed limit set. It's heavily traveled by a lot of vehicles every day. I don't know really what the problem is and how this is going to fix it.
I guess just slowing down would help as far as it takes less time to stop.
Okay.
I guess I don't quite understand the question. Because by
I don't
slowing
really understand
down, you're...
I'm not understanding what the problem is.
Well, I
as
think
far as,
what the concern of the local people in the area is when they're on the major road and they're starting to slow down to make a turn, they're very concerned about what's behind them more than what's in front of them at that time. And if they were to slow down to 45, it wouldn't be as dangerous for them to slow down to 5-10 miles an hour to make the turn.
okay, well, I
Right?
mean,
Yeah.
Is that the number one concern of this whole intersection is
Right.
that road is not pulling out from the side street, right? That's not a concern?
Right.
It's, you're on the major road and you need to make a turn.
Well, and you go from 45 to 55 and then back to 45, and then why is that stretch in there 55 and the others are 45?
Well, again, it was a state highway and it was built for 55.
Yeah, but I mean, that's part of the state highway, the 245s.
Were they state highway also?
Yes, but the difference is that north of Reno and south of 59th Street, it's a lot more urbanized.
Right. Yeah.
It's
We're-
these
we're
middle
getting there
miles
where
that
we're
are,
at.
that are starting to urbanize.
Okay.
as far as slowing the speed limit down, I mean, if you get rear-ended, it may not be as bad of a wreck, but you still run the risk of being rear-ended.
Yeah.
That's true, but it's still, it helps. Like, so it's more of a quick fix than anything.
Okay. The other thing I'd like to bring up, is, I would agree with Commissioner Barnell that driver expectation, roads just have a feel to them, and no matter what we do on this commission, I've seen it over and over again to where we have changed at the request of a citizen, have lowered the speed limit, and it has little or the reverse effect. We had that on Northwest 23rd Street, to where they requested a speed limit be reduced, and the 85th percentile actually went up, if I remember correctly. So, like I say, most roads have a feel to them, no
Yeah.
matter what is posted, and I agree that this road has a feel of 55 miles an hour.
Yeah. You know, being the new kids on the block down there, you know, it looks to us like the area has really outgrown the roads, is what it amounts to. And so that's all I was looking at, is trying to have like I said, a quick fix, a quick change that can maybe keep somebody from getting killed on that road. The people that live on the corner, they told me about a really horrible accident that was there, I think she said a couple of years ago, with a young gal on a motorcycle. And she evidently almost died. We weren't here at that time, but you know, things like that it's like such an easy thing to fix. You know, as far as let's slow the people down so that they've got more time to get stopped and we don't have those accidents.
But
You know,
fix them for
to me,
who?
slowing down just means you got more time to react.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Is that good, sir? Okay, anybody else want to speak?
Yeah, I guess so. You know, the 85% of the people are driving 62 miles an hour. And some are even higher. You know, it's a very fast road, and it's made to be driven that fast. You know, I think shutting it down to 45 might have the opposite effect that you want. I think it may, like he was saying, may make it more dangerous because you'll have the people that want to follow the law and driving 45, and you'll have people passing them like crazy. And it's just, you know, that it's a very wide area, like with wide open. Almost everything in on those 3 or 4 or 5 miles there are like yours, 5-acre lots. It's real. It's not urban at this point. At some point, it will be. It will be, you know, as the smaller lot homes come in, and there's some going in, I know, but it's still just country road out there at this point. And so for me, I think the 55 is perfectly fine at this point. And to slow it down, you've got 12,000 people a day driving that road, and 10,000 of them are driving it at 62 about. And so, you know, now to tell those 10,000 people to slow it to 45, otherwise they're going to be breaking the law, because at this point, there's one family wants it changed, and I understand your concern for it, but that's, you know, you want it 45, but there's 10,000 people driving it daily that are driving it at 62 miles an hour average. So I don't know, it just seems like not the right time to do it for me, but.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wanted to speak on this item? Okay, so we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Russell, item 5C, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. Can we have your votes, please? Okay, item has failed on a vote of 5 against and 3 for. Okay, so now we go back to item 5B, which was the stop control on South Cemetery Road at Southwest 44th Street to establish all-way stop control. And we have a pending motion to disapprove item 5B from Commissioner Russell, seconded by Commissioner George. Do we have any more talk on item 5B? Okay, we have a motion to disapprove item 5B from Commissioner Russell, seconded by Commissioner George. Can I have your votes, please? And once we get back there, am I on the wrong? Wait, I'm on the wrong one here, I
Standing
think.
by.
Are you waiting on me? No. Okay. We're waiting on the computer. There we go.
This is a disapprove.
Well, right, this is for disapproval. For Russell and George. Okay, so there it is, disapproval, moved by Russell, seconded by George, and the votes are coming up. Here comes the vote button. Item to disapprove 5B has passed. So the item has not passed. Okay? So here's some points on that area that I've talked to staff on. First of all, when it was brought up about the guardrails being tore up and no guardrail on that one turn where it's like an 8-foot drop, he's going to have some people go out and look and see if that's, you know, if the city even knows of the damage, and also to do an assessment of that curve to make sure it's safe.
Okay, we're talking about two different intersections.
Well, it was what he brought up.
Yeah.
I believe the intersection he's talking about is over at 44th and Cemetery. You were talking about like an 8-foot drop-off?
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, so wherever the big drop-off was, to see if a guardrail should go in there, and then the damaged guardrails in that area to make sure everything's safe. Am I right? Okay. All right, so just to talk on this, just to close it out, to make sure, it's still a rural area, but as the housing areas come in, especially the 1 acre housing areas compared to 5 acres, and the traffic flow of the side streets increase, then something could maybe come in front of us. And if that road starts looking like it should be 45, and that's going to be a hard time because that road is wide open, it's got shoulders, it looks like a 55. So unless there's a lot of traffic and a lot of entry points, then it's going to be pretty hard. Yes, ma'am, please come up to the mic.
I just wanted to ask, is this something that's monitored by the city? I mean, or do I need to come back in a couple of years, or is it going to be monitored by the city?
Well,
So
as you
it'll be
see things,
Okay,
you know, that's the way that we hear about things, is people come and talk to us.
yeah, okay. So
Now-
there's not anybody that drives up and down streets?
No, they don't, you don't do that kind of assessment all the time, do you?
No.
Okay, so as we get input, so as you're out there and if you see it's just getting even more dangerous, you can always come back
Okay.
in 6 months, right, sir? Is that the right time?
Yeah, the commission can always rehear an item
Yeah,
in 6 months.
After 6 months.
Okay,
So if it keeps getting worse and then all of a sudden you see some 100 unit neighborhoods going up and more traffic coming around in some years, maybe, then you can always come and ask.
okay,
And then we're going to ask the captain to make sure that the motorcycle cops get out there to see if they can slow it down just a little bit.
okay.
So that's another thing that happens, and that's why she's on here, is when we hear from citizens of some problems that
Yeah.
we don't know about.
Then the other question I had was about the number of accidents and that. I'm still kind of confused about that from what we saw versus what I just heard.
Right.
What constitutes an accident?
Okay, could you say that again?
What we use for collision histories is records from the Department of Public Safety. So it's not whether or not there was an accident there, it's whether or not a crash report was filed with DPS, which eventually made it into the collision database. So if there's no record filed, then we won't have any knowledge of
Is
it.
there some place I can look as a citizen, like when I know one of these accidents has happened, to see whether or not it's been reported? Because that's, you know, like I said, a year and a half, we actually saw the evidence of after the fact, after the accident, and that's just in a year and a half, we saw 3.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a public portal for information like that. I know that citizens can always make open records requests.
Yeah.
And you could probably make one through, well, in order to produce a record, you have to, the person providing it has to be one of their records. I mean, we draw our information from basically a website that the the Oklahoma Department of Transportation builds, and then they populate it using Department of Public Safety records. So the Department of Public Safety, you could potentially make an open records request of them for collisions at that intersection. But like I said, the information that we use in preparing these reports is basically from DPS reports.
Okay.
So,
And I apologize for not being more prepared. I didn't know that I was going to need all this information, need all of this information, so, but I guess I'll start gathering that stuff for future.
No, very good job, ma'am, thank you.
You did great.
Yeah, you did great.
A suggestion?
Uh-huh.
If and when you should come back in the future, work with your neighbors and try to get a coalition of
Okay.
people that see things the same way that you do, perhaps, and then they could come present with you. And
Okay.
there's really more, what's the word that I'm looking for? There's more teeth in that kind of an application there is when it's just a sole citizen trying to accomplish something.
Okey doke. Well, I know when I first turned the petition in, that there was just the one house, and like I said, the rest of them were back, and I didn't need a signature from him. Since then, they put in, there's another new house on the corner, so there'd be a second one there. But, it's a place, school buses, go through there, and I've seen them many times thinking, oh my God, I thought they were gonna go off in that ditch. Because there's not much room to turn there.
Oh, sure not.
We've been there, done that with the pickup and trailer, and you just have to wait for somebody to move so that you can make that corner. So,
And as far as we've talked, the feel of the road. Like I
Yeah.
said, I went out and drove it at noon today. I drove that road when I was in high school to get from Oklahoma City to Mustang, and there's a totally different feel to that road than there was at the other time. And I thought 45 was ample, but
yeah.
like I said, I'm one vote on here. But keep interested. If you see issues, bring them to us.
Okay, well, I'll just
Like
try
the
to
commissioner
log
said,
it.
talk to some of your neighbors and other people that have concerns and work together with them. But thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
ma'am. Okay, we go on now to item 5D, Robert Birchneck, to add stop control on Northwest 63rd Street at North Douglas Boulevard to establish all-way stop control. Yes, sir, if I could have your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Robert Biershank, 6,000 North Midwest Boulevard, and that's Northeast 63rd, and North Midwest Boulevard is or North Douglas is on Northeast 63rd, not Northwest, okay? The problem that we have out there, North Midwest Boulevard is closed south of Northeast 63rd Street, and it's been closed for 6 months. Midwest Boulevard is a highly traveled road from Edmond area to Midwest City, Tinkerfield, UCO, because it's off I-35. We actually have an office up in Edmond, have some of our employees live in Midwest City. They used to drive over the I-35, and I said, why don't you take Midwest Boulevard? And it saved them like 15 minutes to drive, and about 3 or 4 miles, something like that. I-35 so often is shut down due to the wrecks, and it seems like construction is every other year. And so we get a lot of that traffic. Since it's been closed for about 6 months, and I understand another year and a half, maybe more, I haven't seen any topo shots or anything. It's not the North Canadian Bridge, it's the Crutcho Creek Bridge between the river bridge and the railroad track. And so I'm just assuming that most likely they're looking at putting a 4-lane highway in from Northeast 23rd Street to Memorial Road, which should be about 6 or 7 miles, because that is a second highway for the people in eastern Oklahoma City. The river causes not many roads to go through east and west. Wilshire is closed. I think, now, and 50th Street was closed for a while, over by Choctaw. But just on Douglas Boulevard, Douglas doesn't have much traffic to the north, but to the south is where people go when they come on this detour. I don't know if you got some, I think you got some counts of the, I estimate 90% of the people coming south on Midwest Boulevard turn to the east. It's a mile to the detour to go south again. If you turn to the west, it's 2 miles to Center Road. it has increased the traffic so much for that 1 mile. On that 1 mile, you have the North Canadian River with an arched bridge very near where Douglas is. On the west side of the road, you have a sand plant with many semis coming in and out every day, probably, maybe sometimes 100, 150. The road used to be 55 miles an hour from Douglas to back east to Jones Spencer Highway, I believe it was, and it was recently changed to 45, as all of Northeast 63rd is now, as far back as you can go east, at least to Hiwassee. And so that helps some a little bit, but I can tell you, it's a recipe for road rage. If we keep on, a couple of years ago, my wife and I was coming home from Midwest City and had to stop for the stop. There's a hill to the east of less than a quarter mile, about an eighth of a mile. We got on the road, a little Ford Ranger pickup, got it up to 45 as quick as we could, and there's a guy passed us, come around us, hit the brakes, okay? Hit the brakes right in front of us. He got real close behind us, but going up a double line stripe, okay? Before he got on the bridge, he hit the brakes. He did it twice. And I'm going to go a little bit further and tell about an incident just Friday on this road because of the traffic. There's a semi hauling a load of sand. I think it was Friday. We had the bikers using the full lane. The truck couldn't honk and get them to move over. The truck obviously come from the sand plant. There were several cars behind it. When it come to 63rd Midwest Boulevard, the bikers run the stop sign, which they're allowed to under the law. There wasn't anyone coming. So the truck had to get up, he had to stop. So it's nearly coming up to a hill that from there on is nearly a mile of double stripe. He went around and almost had a head-on, okay? If he'd wiped anybody out, it would have probably been the bikers. They'd have probably been under the trailer. And so good for the not honking the horn and having the bikers move over. To me, that was one of the stupidest laws that was ever passed and signed by the governor, because it is a recipe for road rage, I can tell you. But anyway, that's the problem we have out there. Like the young lady was talking about, going on to this turn, going on to Douglas Boulevard, there's a hole about this deep on the corner. Douglas Boulevard wasn't ever a U.S. highway. It was a dirt road 40 years ago, and the road is not very wide. So if there's anyone getting ready to turn, particularly to the west on 63rd Street, to go back west, and right there by the line, you can't hardly get turned in there, particularly pulling a trailer or a semi, and there's lots of semis go up that way. And so we need that hole fixed for one thing. And probably need a little shoulder pavement, because we're going to be another year and a half, 2.5 years for this detour. I don't know what the traffic count showed, but I know there's many more people go to the east to make their detour than they do to the west. And so that's the reason we brought this up. I don't have any of the statistics. I didn't have time for that, but I thought maybe this board could understand what was going on.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else that wants to speak on item 5D? Okay, staff, your input, please.
All right, you've got our comments before you with respect to analysis of the intersection using the criteria in the manual on uniform traffic control devices. This particular intersection currently does not meet any of the criteria for always stop control. Always stop controlled intersections are common, and they're not unexpected at rural section line roads intersections in Oklahoma City. And from a traffic control consistency standpoint, the use of always stop at this intersection shouldn't violate driver expectation. As the applicant noted, there's a bridge on Midwest Boulevard that was closed. It's estimated that in the next 2 years or so, the bridge should be replaced. That's our best information available to us at this time. So right now, as noted, since Midwest Boulevard is not open for through traffic, Douglas Boulevard is taking a little bit more of the traffic load. I'm happy to answer any questions on the application, and action will be at the commission's discretion.
All right, do we have a motion concerning item 5D?
Move approval of the application.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner George. And do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Littlefield. We have discussion.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
Given this is already 45 miles an hour, and that there are, I see four-way stop intersections on either side of this, for consistency, I don't think that this is a bad idea to approve this.
Okay. Anybody else have any discussion item about this? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. Can I have your votes, please? Item 5D has passed, 7 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay, and staff has taken note of that hole, so he'll send somebody out there to look at that. And also, you said the paint's all wore out in that area?
The paint,
Is that what you said, the paint was wore out?
there's not too much paint out there. And I would
So-
like to ask the officer, we need more patrol out there, please. People run the stop sign on 63rd Midwest Boulevard every day. And also, I noticed we have a vacant on Ward 7, and I done told a young lady here, my son would like to serve on this commission, 59 years old in March, okay, he will be. And so he
Okay.
would like to sit in that seat.
Okay, so he would need to get a hold of his council person
Okay.
for Ward 7.
Okay. I don't know if she even knows where we're at. I don't think she's ever been out there.
Well,
So,
but get a hold of the office right over here that you call in, and they'll be able to get a note there.
Okay,
Plus,
okay.
I believe there's also a website you go to volunteer, or is that a state thing?
That's a
Pardon?
question I can't answer.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so,
We're all appointed by the council person from our particular ward. So they just need to visit with the Ward 7 council person.
Just a Ward 7 council person, okay?
yep, and
If we can get
you
that
would want to do that pretty quick,
Okay, we sure will.
because it's already been a month that it's been vacant.
Been how long?
Been 1 month,
1 month, okay.
so,
So they're looking.
yeah, so they're
Okay,
looking.
well, I said something to him, and he said, I'd love to serve. And he's had a lot of insurance. He worked for the state, for Farmers Insurance out of the home office here in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And so he understands about accidents and stuff, okay?
Very good,
Thank you,
sir.
folks, I appreciate
Yes,
it.
thank you. So, the hole and paint.
It's great.
And then you're gonna out there for speed and the stop sign. Okay, good. Okay? All right, we go on now to item 6, comments from citizens. Anybody wanted to say anything? Looking at the one in the back. No? Okay. Anything else? Okay. We go to item 7, reports from traffic commissioners, et cetera. You have time to stay for a little bit more? Okay. We'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Barnell.
I have nothing today, thank you.
Commissioner Littlefield?
Y'all are lucky.
Go over to Commissioner Russell.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Hale.
Nothing to add, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
I do want to say something about the striping. I think I got a request from a citizen about crosswalk striping in our neighborhood. I don't know if Stuart, if they have any extra paint, I think it'd be really appreciated along Chartel or some of the crosswalks if they can get out there.
Are these intersections that have already been marked in
Already
the
been
past and they
striped,
just
yeah,
need to be
years ago.
refreshed?
They're just worn out.
Do you have limits along Chartel?
Generally from 13th to 18th.
Okay. We'll have it looked at.
Okay. Over to Commissioner George.
Nothing today, thank you.
I was at oh, there you are, Commissioner Cornell. Thank you. I'm here.
I did have a citizen reach out to me about illegal parking on Linwood Avenue. I think this is going to be a bigger issue and probably come up later as far as the structure of the street, but there's a lot of illegal parking right at Linwood where Edgecraft Barbecue is and that whole complex of Crest Timbers and whatnot. And so just kind of a hot spot to maybe be on the lookout for. But other than that, I am all good. Thank you.
You sure? Because I'll be coming back to you again. No. What I was going to talk about is I was at the Midwest City's Mayor State of the City speech, And he talked about traffic calming, that they did a traffic calming on one road. So I went by there and I took some photos, and all they did was put a little circle of some yellow poles. And so the side streets were still stop signs, but this road that was pretty wide open going, it was an older neighborhood that has turned into a through road, which is what we see all the time. And so they had the same problem that we have, but they just put a little circle thing in the middle there. And so I took some pictures and passed it on, and he's talked to the city. They didn't have any data on it, if it worked, if it's slowing down, except for nobody's complained since it's gone up, where they had several complaints about speeders and all that prior. And when I went through it, you really have to, if you don't want to hit it, you have to go slow as you go around, about 15. So it's not a true roundabout because you still had stop signs on the side streets. And if you're talking traffic flow, it's probably to be the same thing that we've seen in some other places where you'll have a 2,000 or 3,000 and a 500. And so something like that could become part of our traffic comments. I just want to let you two guys know about it for traffic comments, something a little different to be added to the package.
Could you share the pictures with us?
Staff will go ahead and send it
Send
out
an email?
to everybody.
That's great. How is the program coming? Is there any news or?
It's in the Public Works Director's in basket to be reviewed. But we've made revisions to it, and probably the biggest thing that's coming up in it is there are added features for mini roundabouts, speed cushions, speed humps, driver speed feedback signs. Those are the primary features right now. Oh, we've got one that we refer to as like a street alert, which is like large painted words like approaching stop signs. It might read stop or slow or something to that effect. And the other feature of the program, which will be, once it passes that review and gets brought back to the commission to be reviewed, is that the city's now considering the option of going to like a cost sharing. So it'd be a 50-50 split, because right now it's completely a user-funded program.
Excellent news.
So,
great news.
Okay, that's all I have. So we'll go. Captain, anything else? Okay. One thing to talk about, might as well talk about it now. The June meeting, which is the third Monday, is Juneteenth, and that's now a city holiday. So the city offices are closed. Usually, in that case, we would do like we do in January, move it to Friday. But usually, we also take June off, and that's when staff does a lot of time off on their own. They all kind of try to take it all at one time. So instead of having the city clerk post a meeting on that Friday in June, and then we meet in May and say no meeting, and she has to post again, would everybody be okay with just canceling the June meeting? Everybody's okay with that? Unless something of emergency urgent comes up, which, okay, so please let this, the city clerk's office know that June's canceled.
okay, I'll take care of that.
Okay, all right. Anything else from staff?
Nothing else to add?
Okay, does anybody else have any business for the Traffic and Transportation Commission? Okay, stand adjourned.
See what